Ethan Klein, better known as H3H3 Productions, has been in a downward trend with his reputation over the past couple of years. From humble beginnings as a reactionary channel to growing to millions of followers and hanging out with popular edgy YouTubers like idubbbz, Filthy Frank, and Maxmopho, to being a woke podcaster calling people out for the most minuscule things. Most recently has gone into controversy with ABBA and Preach. But before we get into that, how did Ethan Klein get such a good reputation in the first place? Ethan Klein was on vacation to Israel with one of the tour spots he visited called the Vad Vashem Holocaust Museum, where he would meet for the first time his soon-to-be wife, Hila. After Ethan left the vacation back to the US, he and Hila continued to talk through Skype until she came to move to the US to stay with him, though sadly after only 1 year, her visa expired and she had to move back to Israel. Because Ethan still wanted to be with her, he decided to move to Israel with her and picked up a marketing job. After 5 years, Ethan got tired of this job and felt like he should pursue his true passion, comedy. Hila, attending an art class, had to make a video and Ethan asked to be in this video. This would mark the start of the H3H3 channel. The first videos on the channel sucked, but got a lot better over time when they struck gold 2 years later.
Try the lion first.
The couple would do meme edits of random stuff they found on the internet and would give them their first bit of success on YouTube, hitting 1,000 subscribers. Then in 2014, H3H3, what everyone knows them for now, reaction content with comedy bits and criticism.
As I'm Joey Salads. And in today's
Joey Salads? Joey Salads, is that the name you're gonna go with here, buddy? Joey Salads? What's your favorite salad, Joey? What kind of salad you like, buddy?
This would spark a series explode their channel into popularity, making videos on fake pranksters, vloggers, and other content creators alike. After only 5 months, their channel soon rose to over 1 million subscribers. Later in 2016, the content started to shift away from reaction videos, leading fans to hate their new content. Ethan would explain that there's not much content to make fun of anymore, seeing that other people started to do similar content like Leafy, Pyrocynical, and people alike.
And we came to the point where I would say like 4 or 5 months ago, when we just couldn't do it anymore. And I want to explain why. You know, in the beginning when we were making reaction videos, I don't know if we were the only ones doing it, but it seemed like at the time. Yeah. And it was like open range, it was open fields. There was so much to talk about. There was so much shit on YouTube to expose and lampoon, you know. And as the years went on,
there was less content to talk about.
Right.
After about 2 months after the uploading of that explanation, the content shifted to a new project, a podcast called the H3 Podcast. On the main channel, sadly, the production of videos would start to slow down. This was a great move for the couple and their channel would grow astronomically, though this would also be where the fans turned their back on them. Then in 2018, the couple would address the state of the channel. Ethan would also talk about his mental health, as a lot of fans started to notice the decline of his mental state on the podcast.
From my part, I was just feeling like I literally could not make any more videos. I just hit a wall where it was gotten so bad that it was basically either stop making videos or disappear forever. I just have accepted that I am like actually depressed.
H3 started to produce more content on the H3 Productions channel. This would also be where his controversies would begin. Later in 2018, Ethan would post a video titled "Apologies If You Were Offended," marking the start of a sort of shift of mindset, talking about a Twitter situation where people were calling him transphobic.
A person wrote H3H3 is transphobic 8 times in response to my tweet, and it has 300 retweets and 1,000 likes.
This is the joke police. Put your hands in the air and log out of Twitter.
Now I'm just going to say this for the first time, and I'll keep repeating it, but
just because you were offended by a joke doesn't mean that the joke was inherently offensive.
So he didn't really apologize in the video. The fans didn't really like this apology video, saying that he used to make fun of people on the SJW or a more liberal side of the internet. The Ethan Klein before probably would have laughed at him, but the new Ethan sits on camera and defends himself from these people. He would have more Twitter dramas, prompting commentary YouTuber Diesel Patches put out a video ranting about what other people in the community were thinking at the time.
Ethan Klein is seen as a spokesperson of YouTube, and because he also makes funny content, he also has a likable charm to him. Many of his fan base see him as someone who can do no wrong. This has also prompted Ethan to grow a giant, massive ego. And before I talk about how much I dislike Ethan now, I just want to say he used to be one of my favorite YouTube channels back in the day. 2015 was probably his golden age. But now Ethan is a shadow of his former self.
This wouldn't get any better with the amount of controversies that followed in 2019 to 2020.
What is up, Drama Alert Nation? I'm your host,
Amos.
Let's get right into the news.
So in the past, Ethan Klein and KEEMSTAR have been in multiple beefs, with Ethan making content like with Content Nuke KEEMSTAR, Nuclear Fallout KEEMSTAR, Nuclear Winter KEEMSTAR, and a lot alike, which honestly, it kind of just looks like a ripped off Leafy is here, kind of like how I'm doing right now. But if you want a more in-depth thing on how they've been back and forth on Twitter, and other things alike, you should go check out this guy's video on screen, because honestly, I can't cover it on the news. And without any further ado, let's get back to the video. Following the rise of distaste for H3H3, a video titled The Death of H3H3 was uploaded with the length of a full movie. This video was entertaining and extremely well put together and compiled a lot of what people were thinking at the time about Ethan Klein. This video ended up getting a lot of support, with people agreeing, and H3H3 started to get a lot of hate from this video. Following the backlash, Ethan went on the H3 podcast to apologize, yet never named Gokanaro or any of the videos that people have made on him. For some reason, Ethan was given a pass, and people forgave him for a bit after this, which is kind of strange seeing that a lot of YouTubers nowadays really don't get this treatment. On December 11th, 2019, the YouTube harassment policy would be changed on YouTube, making it so people like Leafy and people like him couldn't really make that type of content anymore where they bully children or content creators alike. Following this, some videos got taken down along with Gokanaro's video on H3. Besides the Gokanaro video, a lot of other videos similar were also taken down, making Ethan look like he asked YouTube to take it down, which didn't help since Ethan met up with former CEO Susan Wabasks, I can't say her name, before this policy change came out. One of the biggest defenders of this theory is the before mentioned creator KEEMSTAR, which Ethan would go on to respond to on the H3 podcast. Mutahar, also known as Some Ordinary Gamers, is a moist critical type channel doing creepypastas, topic commentary, and gaming topic commentary style videos. Where Mutahar plays a part in this video is when he made a video on H3H3 that was kind of poorly made and was not taken down too long after, which he then made an apology video on. The biggest point he made in this video was about talking about Ethan's points on billionaires and how he was shaming Jeff Bezos for a $100 million donation.
My concern is his donation shaming and how hypocritical it f***ing is, and it's something that has actually pissed me off enough to make this video. Now, going into this, if you don't know, Jeff Bezos, the richest dude in the world, okay, donated $100 million. Now, as far as I'm considering this, $100 million is $100 million. That is a lot of money that has gone to save lives and fight against this pandemic. You may look at his net worth and say, wow, he donated a tiny percentage of his cash, but that's $100 million that any organization can do wonders with if they use it appropriately. Ethan did the exact same thing. He looked at Jeff Bezos, said, wow, the richest guy in the world only gave $100 million.
Which couldn't be possible, seeing that this tweet happened before Jeff even donated to charity. Also said that Ethan lives in a rich home and says that he hasn't donated at all to charity, though gets mad at people calling for COVID donations. Both would be proven wrong when H3H would respond.
Literally impossible for me to have donation shamed him. Now, as I go forward, please bear in mind that his original video entitled The Hypocrisy of Ethan Klein, in which the whole central thesis is me donation shaming Jeff Bezos, is still up in its original form without any correction or note or comment of any sort trying to retract or correct the record to falsely make a statement about someone and to know that your statement is false and to keep it up. Well, that's the very definition of a slander itself, folks.
donation shaming, and how hypocritical.
Somewhere in a gamer's video would look even worse when Ethan would announce that he would be donating $100,000 to people on Twitter. Why this beef is important is because up until then, Ethan had not addressed any videos on him, but Somewhere in a gamer's video. After all, it was relatively easy to dunk on for Ethan Klein. Though somehow Ethan brings up a point saying that when Somewhere in a Gamers was talking about where he lived, he was doxing him.
So hypocritical, because it is the same guy that lives in a $10 million mansion, look it up.
So now he gets his fans all riled up about what an evil dude I am, and then encourages them to go find out where I live. Now, when we moved houses,
he said for people to look it up, even though it's public info. And even though it's just public info, he wasn't even saying, hey guys, you should try to figure out where this guy lives. Even if Ethan cared about being doxxed, he obviously wouldn't have shown the article about his house on screen and show where to find it.
well, there's a website called Dirt that is owned by Variety that specializes in essentially doxing celebrities. So to prop up this leak of our...
He would make another bad point when he would say that Mudahar was telling Reddit detectives to look into their giveaway, even though it wasn't the case, and this is again just another reach for a point or a gotcha moment. On an episode of the H3H3 podcast, a current situation about the YouTuber Pre-Jared and how his wife accused him of infidelity and being an abusive husband. With this news coming out, a lot of people came out to accuse him of allegedly talking to in a way, leading to him losing thousands of subscribers. A lot of people took the accusation as fact, as a lot of people online do nowadays, but as we would come to find out with Pro-Jared, he never intentionally talked to minors. Following this, a lot of people apologized, but not Ethan, saying all he was reporting was the news.
Misinformation that I spread about Jared, I think none. I was reporting what happened, talking about how crazy it was, how the kickback, I had never seen anything like that, losing 25% of your fan base in a day or whatever.
And then goes on to still call him a creep, which is fair. Seeing when you are as popular as he is, he probably shouldn't be talking to fans in a way, and that's what Pro-Jared did. But Ethan Klein, now knowing the truth, doesn't show any sympathy at all that he got falsely accused, and saying he shouldn't apologize for putting up a false narrative, which he has millions of subscribers that have probably watched the video and probably haven't even seen the truth of what actually happened to Pro-Jared, and would probably still believe that he's a This is the issue of a lot of claims that come out with no proof, like what recently happened a couple months ago with the Quiet situation, and sadly can ruin careers. This lack of empathy and remorse is downright just not okay, and goes on to prove further his change in judgment. In 2021, Ethan D. Klein would make a podcast with none other than Trisha Paytas, a YouTuber with over 5 million subscribers. Out of any YouTuber I can think of, Trisha makes literally no sense as to why she's popular. Not attractive, not informative, and not even really entertaining. If I had to guess, it's only because of the constant drama she's been in and the videos made on her, with my favorite video on her probably being the one Leafy is here made on her.
It is a YouTuber that goes by the name Blonde Sundoll for MJ? What? This is seriously a real person? Are you with me right now? Shut up, you go by the name Leafy! Okay, good point. No, but meet Blind Sundoll for MJ, or Blonde Sundoll for MJ, or Blind Sundoll for MJ, or I don't even know what. Meet the person on the goddamn screen, okay? Meet Trisha.
Through the years, this person portrays herself as extremely dysfunctional and kind of a hoe. Her relationship with Ethan is usually them disagreeing or them straight up fighting, seeming that the podcast was probably just made so that they can get into fights to get some extra clicks. The podcast was just Trisha and Ethan, and would talk about trending topics, and we get into multiple dramas, with the first one being how Trisha felt like she wasn't getting paid enough, which would be a common occurrence, also leading to her for some reason to leave the show multiple times. Last time Trisha quit, however, and she was done and leaving the podcast for good, that shocked a lot of fans, saying that she left multiple times. After the podcast, Ethan would continue on his H3 podcast, and Ethan slowly but surely would continue to look more and more like a loser. Makeship.com is a website that makes plushies for a variety of creators, with the only stipulation being that you have to reach a certain number of pre-orders for them to make a plushie. Boblax was one of these creators looking to have a plushie sold, but with an impending deadline coming up and only 60% of pre-orders done, was looking at possibly his plushie being cancelled. This all changed, however, when Ethan Klein on his podcast said he would buy the rest of the product so that Boblax can have his plushie sold.
He's selling a plushie doll, a neckbeard plushie doll, which is pretty brave to actually put this out there, don't you think? With the neckbeard and everything. And frankly, there's nothing more than I want to cuddle up with a little Boblé doll. Excited to announce today, in honor of our boy Boblax, who's the stalwart, most loyal fan, a defender, we are committing to buying right now. Sam is processing the order, 144 Boblax plushie dolls. Let's make this dream a reality.
Even though this looks like a really good deed coming from Ethan, as people come to find out, he refunded this right after the podcast, making it seem like he only did this to better his reputation instead of helping a fellow creator. A couple of months ago, a drama surfaced of a YouTuber Atriot getting caught having a tab open of deep fake of streamers that he's friends with, such as Pokemon and QT Cinderella, making him look like a huge creep.
Syndicate took a serious blow.
What time is it where I am? What time is it PST?
He would come to apologize and after a while would return to YouTube with not much happening to him, saying that he got help.
Stuff is wrong. I 100%. But I want people to know that, you know, because the thing that hurt me the most is like, I've done a lot on the stream to like create a pattern of behavior where I really want, especially women on Twitch, to feel safer. Like we call fucking booba spam cringe. We don't do that there. I've never made like a fucking weird, I don't know, seat sniffing joke. I've never done anything like that.
In between the incident and his apology, QT Cinderella would start breaking down crying.
Because I want to go live because this is what pain looks like. This is what it looks like. Okay? This is what it looks like.
And Ethan, for some reason on the podcast, saying that now he has a woke audience, we're going to start laughing hysterically.
If you are able to look at women who are not selling themselves or benefiting off of being seen sexually,
You're a monster, dude.
This was straight up stupid, seeing at this point his audience is more blue-pilled than ever, and because of this his fans would freak out on Twitter and come after him. Now, as of a couple days ago, Ethan would get into even more controversy if he hasn't already been in tons, when he would start beef with this podcast group, ABBA and Preach, and call them a liar with no proof or evidence on his podcast with Hasanabi.
They're pathetic, they're liars, they're dishonest.
Which honestly, now at this point is starting to look like a recurring thing for him. If you remember in the past when he called out Pro Jared for talking to minors and never apologized. In the live stream later, he would even admit not even watching most of their podcasts, making the claim of him being a liar seeming even more stupid, and he's just saying that because he's of a different political belief than he is. He would then later bring a girl onto his podcast to talk about how she's being SA'd. Though in the podcast, the girl would say she thinks that they were creepy and not necessarily that they SA'd her. But through the podcast, Ethan would like say it without saying, but kind of run with the narrative that they did SA her. ABBA and Preach would then respond.
Describe their bad date. And at one point she said that he lifted up her top to see her breasts.
So now they're talking about the fact that this girl accused Fresh and she was insinuating, heavily implying something extremely inappropriate happened, okay? They're trying to say it's not that story. She was just talking about a bad date. That's her story. Let's listen.
Then H3H3 would get back on his podcast, and instead of saying, hey, yeah, you're right, and I probably shouldn't have ran with that narrative, Ethan goes on and just keeps running with the narrative. And this kind of, again, reminds me of what he did with Pro Jared, not really like saying, hey, yeah, I messed up. He just continues to run with the narrative that he decides to run with. In conclusion, Ethan Klein has been on a downward spiral for years, and I don't really think there's much that could get him out of it. I do think that it was the right decision to move from his old content to a podcast, but I think the way he's doing it and the way he's calling out people is just downright wrong. I do think if he would atone for his sins, maybe learn from it, and notice when he's wrong, he probably wouldn't get as much for what he's doing, and maybe his reputation would be a lot better than it is today. But let me know in the comments section below. Do you think Ethan Klein can make a resurgence and people won't hate him as much? Or do you think everybody in the commentary scene and a lot of YouTube will hate him forever?